Okay. So this is our Monday Tanya class, and for the past, couple months already, we went back to chapters 41 through 50 to look at the meditations. The meditations.
Yeah.
Yes. And 2 weeks ago, we learned about a concept that is based on a verse in Mishlei, in Proverbs, of King Solomon. Kamayim haponim elponim. Just as water reflects a face to a face, if you look in the water, reflected face looking back at you, whose face is it? It's your face. Kain, so too, leiv ha'ish el ha'ish, does the heart of one person reflect the heart of the other. And we explained, this was in chapter 46, that it is human nature that the heart will reflect back emotions that it is receiving from another person. It's automatic, which is the beauty of it. It's automatic. And we wanted to sort of hack into that mechanism and use it deliberately for increasing our love of Hashem. So we said like this: if the heart will reflect back love that it is receiving, so all we have to do, if we want to feel more love of Hashem, and of course we all want to feel more love of Hashem because that's the premise here. And if you're going to say, well, why is it the premise? Well, I could say, well, go back to the first class, and I'm not going to explain it again. Or I could say, all right, I'll give you a quick one-sentence answer, which is, it's a mitzvah to love Hashem. V'yahavta Hashem Elokecha. Or I could say, when you love Hashem, it enables you to do all the other mitzvahs properly. Or I could say, you're doing the mitzvahs anyway, you might as well enjoy it. Okay, so those are a few answers.
Come to Wednesday and then you naturally will love Hashem.
Oh, very good. That's a great advertisement. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So, we want to love Hashem. How can we love Hashem? Well, we had a lot of different methods. We've meditated on a lot of methods, but today's meditation is another meditation that's based on the same concept of Kamayim haponim elponim kein leiv ha'ish el ha'ish. In chapter 46, we introduced the concept, and we said basically, if you think about the love that Hashem showed us in the Exodus, that will automatically trigger a reciprocal feeling of love toward Hashem. In chapter 47, we said, and if you're having trouble focusing on the idea of the Exodus because it is ancient history, or you feel like it's ancient history, so then think about the Exodus that happens to the soul every single time you use your body to learn Torah and do mitzvahs, that rather than your body being the soul's prison, your body becomes the tool through which you become one with God. And I'm not going to explain all that again because that was last week. But if you weren't here last week and you're like, I don't understand what you said, that makes sense. But if you were here last week, you understood basically what I said? Okay, I will take that as a sign we can just continue. Okay. Now, what I would like to look at today is in chapter 48. And it's really chapter 48 and 49. They go together. So I'm going to have to figure out how to skip around because there's no way we're going to cover the text from 2 chapters. Yeah, we need more chairs?
No, right behind.
That's great. We're sold out.
Plenty of chairs.
Standing room only. Got to stand in the back row. Okay. Somebody should have scalped tickets. I heard there was a lady standing out front selling tickets to the class. Okay, this is great. This is the first time we ran out of chairs. Well, the truth is, there's a whole... Okay. Let me just... We ran out of chairs. There's no more chairs in the whole 5 towns. Okay. Standing room only, yes. Okay. Okay. Baruch Hashem. All right. So here's the deal. And this is a tough one. This is a tough one. I'm going to admit that it's tough because it entails understanding and thinking about some very abstract ideas. But, you came to a class like this. I mean, you can't really be... I don't think anyone can walk out today and have a legitimate complaint and say, I don't know, they were talking about a bunch of deep spiritual concepts. That was a real bait and switch. No one's going to say that, right?
We'll see.
You came here for the deep spiritual concepts, right? Okay.
We stayed for the jokes.
At what?
We stayed for the jokes.
You stayed for the jokes. You came for the
Yeah.
came for the deep spiritual concepts, stay for the jokes. Okay. All right. So, I'm going to just begin chapter 48, but we're not going to learn the whole text, and then I want to get into 49. We're not going to learn the whole text of that either. I'm going to jump around. And just to remind everyone, we have learned the entire 53 chapters of Volume 1 of Tanya. We've done that already. We're just going back through certain chapters and picking out the meditations. Okay. So it says like this, V'hine kasher, at the beginning of chapter 48, V'hine kasher yisbein amaskil b'gdula saints of Baruch Hu, when an intelligent person will meditate on the greatness of Hashem. Ki kishmei kainhu, ein sof ein katz v'tachlis klal, that Hashem literally is just like we refer to him, as endless. Ein sof means he who is without end. He's literally without end. There's no end. There's no end to the life force, the light and the life force which extends from him. And furthermore, that light that extends from him is entirely one with his very essence. And therefore, if the worlds would have been created without the mechanism of Tzimtzum, we'll explain that one second, but rather it would have been created level by level, cause and effect, the world would never have come out the way that it did now, finite, like the Gemara says, that from the earth to the firmament is a walk of 500 years. Okay, so basically what did he say? He said like this, Hashem is, what do we say about Hashem here? Infinite. And the world came out, the world that we know, came out finite. Okay. So that was not going to happen automatically. Automatically, if infinity is spreading out, it does so infinitely. That's a bit of a truism. So the fact that there's any place for finitude is only because of this concept called Tzimtzum. What is Tzimtzum? We've learned about it before. It literally means contraction, although sometimes it's probably better to understand it not as contraction but as concealment. At any rate, what it's referring to is the fact that Hashem is not revealed in the world. His infinity is hidden away, and that allows for the possibility of finite creation existing without being overwhelmed out of existence. Yeah?
Did you say that in English, please?
Yeah, that was a lot. That was a lot.
Hashem is everywhere and everything, so what allows for the possibility that anything else could exist? How can anything else exist if he's everywhere and everything? And he's just oneness. So how could there be anything but the one? How could there even appear to be anything but the one? Okay, even if you call it an illusion, which I take exception with, but even if you call it that, and I'll grant you that, how does he produce that illusion? Ask Doug Henney. He said they're not tricks, they're illusions. What? From the Tzimtzum. Okay, so we're on the same page. That's what we're talking about. Tzimtzum. Tzimtzum is the mechanism which produces this effect. Very good. Everyone follow? Okay. All right. I'm going to skip. You know what I'm going to do? Okay, so then he proceeds to explain at length, and it's helpful for the meditation, but I want to cover ground here, more in detail some of how this Tzimtzum works. Not exactly how it works, but more of the effects that it produces. But the bottom line is we have this finite physical realm, which is the end product of Tzimtzum. I mean, even the spiritual worlds are a product of Tzimtzum, because even spiritual worlds have some description to them, which is a function of finitude.
Is
So,
Tzimtzum infinite?
no, it's the opposite. Just follow. Even spiritual worlds would not be possible without Tzimtzum, because even spiritual worlds, as lofty as they are and as relatively unlimited as they are compared to the physical realm, they are still limited. They have description. You have an angel standing up there and the angel standing down there, which obviously doesn't mean spatially. It's talking about in terms of quality, degree of revelation. The point is that because descriptions can even be used to describe phenomena of the spiritual realms, that means that the spiritual realms clearly are finite. Description means contours, perimeters. It means where one thing ends and another thing begins. That's finitude. So even the spiritual realms are a product of Tzimtzum. And this Tzimtzum compounds. Imagine translucent curtains on top of a window until the ultimate effect is opacity. If you have enough translucent curtains on top of the window, eventually it's completely opaque. You have the blackout curtains. Okay? So the physical world is the end result. I'm just sort of skimming over what it talks about in this chapter. So you have Tzimtzum upon Tzimtzum upon Tzimtzum, until finally, and there are many sub-degrees of Tzimtzum, by the way. We speak about generally 4 levels corresponding to the 4 worlds, and each world is another degree of Tzimtzum. But the point is that there are many, 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 many degrees and junctures of Tzimtzum, depending on how you want to slice it and how you want to look at it. These are all repeating patterns anyway, so you can zoom in, zoom out. It's the same basic concept. And at the end, you have the physical world, which is, as we know, a world of finitude. 2 things cannot be in one place. One place cannot have 2 things. Can't. You're limited. The physical world is limiting. You know, if you eat the last brownie at the Kiddush, I can't eat the last brownie at the Kiddush. That kind of stuff. Just explaining how physics works. Yeah.
And trauma.
What do you say?
What about trauma? Traumatic.
Oh, not getting the last brownie? Well, yeah, because especially if you were raised to be polite, so you were eyeing the brownie and you were like standing away from it so you wouldn't be rude, and then somebody else just, like a bull, they charge up and they grab it. It's very painful. Okay. All right. And the point here is, what's all of this for? What's all of this for? Why did Hashem do all of this? And I'm so afraid to say this in 2024 because I feel like I would love a time machine. I would like to be able to go back 20 years. Even 20 years. Like, no, I'm not saying 100 years. 100 years for sure. But even 20 years, I would love to have a time machine, go back and be able to say this and get no pushback. It's hilarious how I am old enough now that I have seen human nature change. I don't know if it's human nature, but trends have changed. Trends of thought, even in my lifetime. Here's what I'm about to say. And listen to everybody get all, I don't know, triggered from this. The point of all of these tzimtzumim, of the infinite, allowing for the possibility of finite existence, was the physical world. That's the end of the line, and that's the point, that's the goal. How do you know when you're done with Tzimtzum? When you've produced a physical world. Okay. And what is the point of the physical world? To create a place. This is how he explains it here. Okay? I'm going to tell you how he explains it here. To create a place for the person, for the embodied soul, to serve Hashem. That's what he says. Now, I could have said that, like I said, even 20 years ago. Forget about 100 years ago for sure. And I would get a free pass on that. In 2024, what's everybody think? Not everybody, but like half of you are thinking, well, I didn't ask for that. Why is that? What, you're trying to impress me? You're trying to impress me that this whole project was so that I could experience embodiment? Thanks a lot. I didn't ask for embodiment. Okay, well, I don't know what to do. I could dismiss the question and say, you're breaking my flow, which you are, but on the other hand, I'm like, I've kind of passed the point of no return because I myself brought it up. I preemptively brought it up because I knew that it was I knew that people would bring it up and I would have to either dismiss it or deal with it, so that's why I preemptively brought it up. Okay, let's talk about it. This is not a new thing. It's not a new concept that all of a sudden we thought up and it was never dealt with before in the history of Judaism and all the thousands of years of Judaism. The Gemara itself says that there was a big philosophical debate, and in the end, the conclusion was Nimnu v'gamru. They voted and they came to the conclusion Shenoyach le'la'adam shalei nivra, that it is more pleasant for a person to never have been created. Okay, so this goes back to the times of the Gemara. I'm talking about, well, it goes back to the times of the Mishnah, 2,000 years ago. We all know, you're not like clever for coming up with this, okay? We all know it's easier not to have been created. Like, there's no comparison. What's easier? Noyach means easy, relaxing. What's more relaxing? To not exist or to exist? No question. Non-existence is much more relaxing than existence. You know about the two guys from Chelm? They were sitting, hanging out, discussing life, and one of them said to the other, says, you know, Chaim, based on how difficult life is, I sometimes think it would have been better never have to been born. The other one says, yeah, Moshe, but how many guys do you know who are actually that lucky, like 1 in 100? Okay.
You stay for the joke.
Yeah. I've told that joke to absolute silence many times. Absolute silence. How did you know? How many people do you know who are not born? What is it? Okay. But here's the deal. We were created. And setting aside your opinion about embodiment and how you're going to fill out the survey, well, they have the green smiley face, and they have the red frowny face, and they think in the middle of there like a yellow, like flat. Yeah. You know, like the at the DMV they have the chutzpah to have like an iPad or some type of a what do you call it, like a tablet when you're leaving. They have the chutzpah to have like a thing. How would you rate your experience? Well, how would I rate my experience? Do I have an option for, like, I would love to have never been here? Like, what? Even if I had a great DMV experience, like in the scheme of things, you think I'm like, this was so good, I'm going to see my friend, I'm going to say, you know, if you've got nothing to do on a Monday afternoon, you know, I highly recommend.
No, if you make an appointment,
Yes.
they treat you so much better.
Yes, yes.
Everything's relative. They treat you better,
Like
yeah.
to go to these things to
Yeah.
begin with.
I know, but
They treat you better, okay. Okay, and even when they treat you the best,
Still don't want to be.
you still don't want to be there. Okay.
obviously.
All right. So, setting aside how you would rate your embodiment experience, try to forget about that for a second and just try to think about this. The infinite engaged in this really massive project that we can't even adequately understand. I mean, I couldn't solve that problem. Someone told me, come up with a way to create the possibility of finite, let alone sentient existence within absolute infinite oneness. I would be like, I don't know, how do you do that? And even if they would tell me, we'll use a little Tzimtzum, I'd be like, what's that? So for sure, I couldn't come up with this. So I've got to be impressed at least with the architecture. That's what I'm saying, you know? At least you got to be impressed with the engineering. But then, if you think about the engineering and you're told, oh, by the way, this whole structure was created for you. Now, again, it's 2024. Some of you might say, like, well, I didn't ask for this. It was created for me, but it's not something I asked for. I get it. Nevertheless, I'm telling you a fact. It's impressive engineering, and it was created for you. You know that guy who built the Taj Mahal? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about? That guy in India? It's in India, right? He built the Taj Mahal for his wife. And you know, I'm sure what happened? Gotta be.
She didn't like it.
Well, you know, she was like,
Okay.
where are we going for Pesach? Right. Oh, he built it after she passed away? He was a smart husband. Then she can't be dissatisfied. That's why it's so famous, by the way. That was a good hack. He built it after she passed away, and then everyone, your wife would have loved this. And he's secretly like, yeah, she would have. Yeah, I'm sure she would have moved right in. Yeah, okay. He was probably married to 1,000 women. He was a king of India.
I'm trying to be dumb with scout, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
How
Okay.
do we know what our soul wants before? Like, we
What?
don't know if we wanted this or not.
Right.
Right now, we don't want it because we're good, but I don't know.
Oh,
So we are giving it
okay.
choice.
Yeah, I'm not even getting into that stuff. Okay.
So
I'm
why
not-
ask the question in the first place?
Well, because if I didn't have to deal with human beings, I would have a very different understanding of the text that I teach. But being that I actually do teach the text to people and they respond to me, Talmida Yesemakulam, I begin to learn how people are actually taking the words that I'm saying. And the ideas that I'm saying don't always mean to people, or even to the majority of people, what I thought they meant before I field tested them. And I know from experience that a lot of people are not inspired by this idea, and to the contrary. So as a decent teacher, which I hope that I am a decent teacher, I am trying to teach the student, not the material. You don't walk in with your lesson plan and say, kids, shut up, teacher's got to teach, don't give me any problems. You walk in and you say, okay, this is what I would like to teach you, but you know, it's got to work. It's got to be a two-way street here. So I'm just telling you, this is a beautiful meditation from chapters 48 and 49 of Tanya. The whole meditation is predicated on our being impressed and actually feeling loved. That's the operative word here, feeling loved because of the Tzimtzum. And I'm just bringing it up. I'm pointing out the elephant in the room that I'm not going to, okay, I'll put it very selfishly, which maybe you'll believe, because then you won't attribute such altruistic motives to it. I really don't want to sit here for an hour and work hard trying to give a class and people to walk out and be like, it totally didn't land for me. I don't want that to happen. So I'm anticipating what might be the resistance. And I know from experience that this is the resistance. Chapters 48 and 49 of Tanya say, remember that mechanism, Kamaim upon him, Kain Leva Ish Ela Ish. When you feel loved, you will automatically reflect love back. Okay, and then we did it about the Exodus, and we did it about the fact that we have the opportunity to reunite with Hashem every time we learn Torah and do mitzvahs. Okay, so he says, now I want you to take that mechanism, that reciprocal love thing, and plug it into a new scenario, which is, think about the Tzimtzum. Think about what Hashem did because of you, and how Hashem contracted himself and removed himself, so to speak, in order to make room for you. And he did that because he loves you.
So we didn't finish
And
the
then,
sentence.
what?
To then serve him.
Yes, to serve him. Yes, correct. To then serve him.
That's a little manipulative.
Okay. Hey, I did this whole thing for you, so don't. Okay, all right. I mean, not just for you individually, but you and your ilk. Does ilk have a negative connotation? I never heard it used positively.
Well, thank you.
Like, who do you want to invite for Shabbos? So, the Goldbergs and their ilk. Nobody says that. Nobody says that.
It's a good Scrabble word.
Okay, listen. Yeah, the whole thing is set up ultimately because of Hashem's agenda. We know that. We're going to be transparent about that. We're not pretending it's for any other agenda. Thank God, by the way. I don't want a world, as much as in my immature fantasy, I think I do not want to live in a reality that was engineered to bring about my personal agenda, okay? The world, as difficult as the world is, and I'm acknowledging that. Of course it was built based on Hashem's agenda. What is Hashem's agenda? From what we understand, because of what Chassidus teaches us, it's this thing called Dira B'Tachtainim. He wants a dwelling place in the lower realms. He wants His infinite essence to be revealed in the finite. That paradox that we've discussed many times. Okay, I want to move quickly. There's so many ideas here, and there's so many places for you to get interested and stop and say, oh, could you talk to us more about that? No. Just let's stay focused. Chapters 48 and 49 of Tanya are saying like this. Again, I just want to take us back. Okay. What's the point of this chapter? What are we actually trying to accomplish by learning this chapter and applying it? Love. That we want to feel love for Hashem. Okay. And what's the premise? That if you feel loved, you will feel loving. Great. All right. We've done it twice based on two different ideas to plug that mechanism into. Now we're doing it about a third concept. And the concept is the Tzimtzum. So basically it's like this. This big Taj Mahal was built for you. You may not like it, okay? I'm not pretending you like the Taj Mahal, but here's the thing. You couldn't build the Taj Mahal. He could build the Taj Mahal, and he built it for you. Okay? So that's all I'm saying. That you think about, and this is an abstract concept, okay? Don't think so much about the physical world. Think about, as much as your mind can grasp, infinity, and think about how crazy it is that from infinity we get this. We get the finite. And that's a lot of work, so to speak. Obviously Hashem doesn't get depleted. It's not work in the sense of always getting tired out. But to the extent that, and here's the main concept that the Alter Rebbe focuses on, that he is, so to speak, metaphorically, obviously we talk about Hashem, so with all the limitations and caveats that apply, he's putting himself aside to make room for your existence. Yes, in the end, what are you going to do with that existence? You're going to serve him. No, nobody's tricking you. It's not the fine print. It's not the click on the terms and conditions that nobody reads. This is up front. Yes, in the end, it is to serve him. Yes. There's no hidden agenda here. But the point is that he put himself aside to make space for your existence. And that's just a fact. How you feel about that or not, maybe that's for therapy. But the fact is, he, so to speak, put himself aside so that you could exist. And don't say, well, why are you making it about me? Why are you saying about me? It's all of us. Bishvili nivra ha'olam, like the Gemara says. I have to believe that the olam, and olam, by the way, that word olam we translate as world, but it really means concealment. Ayin lamed mem, etymologically means concealment. Halim means concealment. So every olam for the Israelis, but for every olam is a halim, is a concealment. That's why we said that there are four general categories of tzimtzumim, that every olam is another layer of tzimtzum. So basically, bishvili nivra ha'olam, that all of this concealment was done for me, meaning Hashem retracted himself, concealed himself in order to make space for me. Think about like a parent who wants their child to be able to shine and doesn't want the child to be overwhelmed or intimidated. And so the parent has to make himself small and to allow the child to feel some sort of confidence, some sort of autonomy. Imagine you're sitting at a table with a father and a son, and the father is very charismatic and very well known, and everyone's expecting the father to speak, but the father wants the son to speak. So think about how small the father has to make himself to make the son feel comfortable that he should put himself out there, so to speak. Okay, so this is the meditation. This is the meditation. We are going to think about this. And it's supposed to be automatic because remember, the whole benefit of the Kamaima ponim al ponim kain levo ish ala ish, just as water reflects a face, so does the heart reflect the heart. The whole premise of that is that it's just sort of natural. So the point of these meditations is that we're riding the wave. This is something that happens on its own. We're just sort of timing it to jump aboard in the right way to take us where we want to go. So we're going to think about the Tzimtzum as much as we can, as much as you can think about an abstract thing like that. We're going to think about Hashem's selflessness in removing himself to giving space for finite existence, setting aside any feelings you may have about your finite existence, as we've explained at length, but just marveling at the phenomenon of our existence in light of the fact that Hashem is infinite and that he's doing all of this. I say it in the present tense because it's not like he just finished and he can walk away from the project. He's got to continue concealing himself. He continues to conceal himself in order for us to have an existence. The premise of this meditation is that if we will absorb that thought, all we have to do is absorb it, then it will automatically trigger a reciprocal feeling of love, as you know, but a more specific type of love. And that is, love can make people do a lot of things, right? Love is an engine. It drives people. So love will make you do a lot of things, even crazy things. Where is this particular type of love going to drive us toward? Okay? It's a very specific kind of love. You know why pitchers from the major league, they cover their throwing hand with their mitt?
No idea.
No idea? Anybody?
They're communicating with the catcher.
Well, they have signals that they communicate with the catcher, different like hand signals and whatever.
Studying
But
their hand?
what?
Studying their hand?
Explain what you mean by that.
Hold it in place so they could throw it.
Oh, steadying it? But they hide. They're let's say they're righty, like I am, so they're holding the baseball. So the grip that they have on the ball, they hide it behind the.
Doesn't show if they're doing a fastball or a curveball.
Okay, I do not understand the physics of this at all, but apparently there's different grips, and if you will see different spin, it has to do with spin and a lot of other things, but. Apparently, if you're a batter, to me, the whole thing's happening in a fraction of a second. It wouldn't help me anyway. But if the batter sees the grip that the pitcher is using, like this, or on the seam, or against the seam, or, I don't know, fingers together, or whatever, if they see the grip that the pitcher is using to hold the ball, then the batter's going to know how that ball is going to leave the pitcher's hand, and he can get ready for it. Again, I don't really relate to this, but I'm just telling you what they say. Okay. So that's why, if you watch, the pitcher will take the ball and they'll put it behind his mitt and then grip it and hide it so that the batter can't predict it. Okay. Why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because the way that the love is pitched, that's going to determine what kind of result this love will push us toward. So,
Should be Mesiras Nefesh.
hmm?
It should be leading us to behave as Mesiras Nefesh then, because God is self-sacrificing or self-fulfilling or pulling himself out, or sacrificing for us so that we could exist
Okay.
in the first place.
So you say 100% correct. However, I think you're taking for granted some words. You're 100% correct what you said, but you got to unpack some of that stuff. Because like what you said was, oh, well, it's logical to me that if God is sacrificing for us, this is going to trigger us in kind to sacrifice for him. You're 100% correct. I just don't know if that's going to land immediately to make a statement like God is sacrificing. I don't know if people will read it that way or understand it that way.
But
So.
that's what you said about the Tzimtzum.
Yeah, I know it's what I said. I'm just impressed that's what you heard. I'm not sure if everybody heard that.
Well, isn't that what happened at Har Sinai? Hashem constricted himself so that we wouldn't die every time he spoke to us. To allow us to live, he had to be stepped back.
Yeah, well, that's why we only heard the first 2 commandments also. We didn't hear the other 8. But let's talk about this word sacrificing, because I'm not sure if it really feels that way to everybody, but it's correct. It's 100% correct. When we think about Tzimtzum in a mature way, in an emotionally intelligent way, we should appreciate the fact that for Hashem, it's an act of sacrifice. Yeah, I know in the end, it's all for him and he gets his agenda granted from it.
But also, is it motivated by his love for us in the first place?
And then you could even trace that back and say, well, why does he even have that agenda? I mean, really,
What about it being rigged? Like we learned?
No. Don't bring in stuff from Wednesday. Don't bring in stuff from Wednesday. Okay. It's a different class. Not everybody knows about that stuff.
Well, I think that the parenting example fits exactly like this. He sacrifices out of love. So
Right. So ultimately, you can trace it back to Hashem's love for us. But the point is like this. He is, and we're going to use a term that might sound shocking, he's sacrificing for us. And sacrificing in the sense of putting himself aside. So what we want to try to do, I want to try to get into this as a meditation here. We're contemplating Hashem's self-sacrifice. We're contemplating how Hashem holds back. You're thinking about how he holds back like divine justice and he doesn't mix in and just force everybody to be good. I'm talking about something much more essential than that, which is
the world could combust if we didn't.
world. What world? The fact that there's a world itself is a completely
No, that's not
crazy thing.
If it wasn't held back, the world wouldn't exist.
The world would not exist. Yeah, there would be nothing but oneness forever and ever and ever and ever and everywhere. So the fact that there's even a world is an incredible amount, or I would even say an infinite amount of self-restraint. So we're thinking about the self-restraint that Hashem is engaged in. Clearly, evidently, right now. Because there is a world, and we do exist. And he's doing it for us. All of this engineering is for us. Yes, for him. For us, what's the difference? Point is a project that we're working on together. So what we're trying to do now is to feel that love that's driving Hashem to make space for us. And automatically, what kind of love is it going to trigger in us? We're trying to feel the love that Hashem feels for us that causes him to make space for us. Making space for him. It will trigger a love that causes us to want to make space for him. And as he explains, maybe even I'll jump over to chapter 49 where he spells it out. So he says, V'hine kamaim aponim laponim. Just like water reflects a face. Kamei shakadosh baruch hu kiviyachol. The operative word is kiviyachol. Kiviyachol means not really, but it's the best we can say with language. Just like HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, hiniach v'silik letzad echad derech mashal. He leaves himself on the side. He departs to the side, so to speak, metaphorically. Es oirei hagadol abilti tachlis, his infinite light. He puts his infinite light to the side. Gonazai v'stirei begimel minei tzimtzum shenim, and he inters them and hides them in 3 different types of tzimtzum. V'hakoil b'shvil avos ha'odam atachtoin la'aloisei la'Hashem. But it's all for the sake of the person down here to be able to elevate all this back to Hashem. Ki ahava deichekes habasar. Because love pushes the flesh. What does that mean? Well, the source in the Gemara is talking about something very, very literal. But, how many people can sit on a couch? Depends how much they love each other. So, literally, when there's love, right? If there's room in the heart, there's room in the home. That love will cause you to make space for somebody else. So he says, Alachas kama v'kama, bekifli kiflaim lein ketz. So how much more so magnified should it be in reciprocation? Ki roi la'adam gam kein la'niach v'la'asev kol asher loy menefesh v'ad basar l'hafkir ha'koil. A person should be moved to surrender all that is his, to set that all aside. So this is the love. Hashem puts himself aside to give us space. We should put aside whatever's important to us to give Hashem space. So what does that mean? That means that whatever agenda is driving us, whatever we think is super important, whatever it is, I have to take care of this. Well, hold on a second. Yeah, I hear you. That's important to you. But how about a little sacrifice? How about making room for Hashem? How about prioritizing doing things that He wants you to do, even though you feel that you urgently need to take care of other things? So that's the love. So let's think about this. Let's think about this. And by the way, that was 2 chapters of Tanya right there. Amazing. Okay. Think about the infinite. And the infinite clearing space, so to speak. And creating room for worlds. First, spiritual worlds. And increasingly less spiritual worlds. What does it mean, less spiritual? We're talking about worlds that become less and less transparent. The first world is so transparent, it's hardly a world. It's hardly a creation. The creator is more evident than the creation. But as you go and as the Tzimtzumim culminate and compound upon each other, you have more and more creation and less creator. Not really, but the appearance, the effect is that there's more creation, less creator. Until finally you have the physical world, the world that we're so familiar with, where it's all creation and hardly any creator. You have to have faith, you have to believe in it to find the creator. But if you look around, what do you see? You see a bunch of creation. Well, that must have been, or must be, present tense, pretty uncomfortable, so to speak, after a fashion, metaphorically, for the infinite. Tell the infinite, could you scooch over a little? Can you scooch over? You make a little room
The parking space.
for the, the couch. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So the infinite one is scooching over, creating the possibility for all of finite existence so that we would have a place to exist. And he's doing this all in pursuit of this unique, intimate relationship with us. Yes, it's his agenda, but at the end, what's his agenda is to have this unique, intimate relationship with us. And how can he have a unique, intimate relationship with us when we don't have any distinct identity? So he has to create separateness in order to create the relationship. It's all really romantic and beautiful. Okay, so we're contemplating this concept, and what's going to happen, and don't say, well, it's not happening. Yeah, because we're sitting in a class, okay? But it might happen for some of you right here. Some of you might just like have a pop right here. Ah, it happened. Okay. Others, you're going to have to meditate a little bit more than just what we can do here in this room. But what will happen, what should happen, is that reciprocal mechanism is going to get triggered, and it's automatic. The penny will drop, and it'll be like, hold the phone. He is putting himself aside in infinite ways that I cannot even fathom. For me, I genuinely feel, and this is the important part, I genuinely feel, it's not intellectually I appreciate how it makes sense, or it's the decent thing to do. It's supposed to trigger an emotion. Triggering an emotion means I will genuinely feel motivated. I want to do something right now. I want to do something right now for him that will show that I'm making his agenda more important than mine. I want to do something that shows some self-sacrifice right now. I have something important that I need to tend to right now. I want to dafka, not do that thing, and I want to do his thing. I have something in my life, a resource, an opportunity that I could use in a way that I want to use it. No, I'm going to specifically not use it that way. I'm going to use it in the way that brings glory to him. Not just because I think it's the right thing to do. I literally feel that way. Why? Because kamaim upon him, it's the reciprocation. He's doing that for me right now. I genuinely want to do that for him right now. Okay, so all of us angsty 2024 people who are annoyed with Hashem for making us exist, we were still able to connect to the basic idea? I think so, right? Yeah? Yeah?